Looking back at 2020, one of the devices that really caught us off guard was the introduction of the Poco X3 NFC, which was probably one of the most well-rounded, budget-friendly smartphones of the year, costing 200 euro, roughly 250 US dollars. Now, it didn't offer incredible performance or an amazing camera, but it was really good overall. But now that we're moving into 2021, we have a new device from Poco, the Poco X3 Pro. Now, we're going to do an unboxing of this device, and it's going to look pretty much identical to last year's model, and overall the same size, same battery, but it has a huge upgrade in terms of performance with the Snapdragon 860 chipset on the inside, and also the rear cameras, the main and the ultra-wide cameras, have been upgraded as well. So once we do the unboxing, we're going to jump into some camera tests to see how this performs in everyday use. Let's take a look. So let's open this thing up and see what's inside. As you can see, the packaging here isn't much different than what we got last year with the Poco X3 NFC, Poco X3 Pro. On the side here, 6 gigabytes of RAM with 128 gigabytes of storage, though there is a model with 8 gigabytes and 256 gigabytes. But as far as the other specifications, this device should be pretty similar to last year's device, except for in a couple key features here. Moving through the box, we do have a couple stickers. They've included these on most of their recent devices now if you want to show your brand loyalty to Poco. Usual information cards, and then a nice case. And as you can see, the cutout here for the camera module on the back pretty much matches what we got on last year's device as well. And then SIM ejection tool right there. Moving that to the side, and let's see which color they sent us. They sent us the blue, which is exactly like the one we already have. Underneath here we have a European charging brick and USB-A to USB-C cable. And this charging brick should be able to deliver 33 watt fast charging. Nice to see that included in the box. But again, it is a budget-friendly smartphone, so we wouldn't expect anything else. And then to the phone itself. I'm going to move the old one out of the way so that we're not confused with it. But on the front here, Snapdragon 888 processor, which is a step up from the Snapdragon 855 Plus. So slots in between the 855 Plus and the 865. 120 hertz, 6.6 inch display, Full HD Plus, and then fast charging, as we already mentioned, and 5,160 milliamp hour battery, same exact size as the battery in the Poco X3 NFC, also the same exact size of the display and resolution as we saw on the X3 NFC. So the only real difference here is going to be the upgraded in the processor and the cameras on the back, and the option to have an 8 gigabyte version as well. Let's take this off. And there we have the front of the phone. I'm just going to turn it on quick. As far as the design of this device goes, it is plastic on the back. Same Poco logo right there, same exact camera module. And again, for comparison, these phones are practically identical. The blue color is a little bit different. There's a little bit more gray in the new one versus the shiny like royal blue from last year's model. But the camera module on the back of the phone, identical setup. And I'm going to guess that the case that they sent with the new phone is going to be a perfect fit for the X3 NFC, and as you can see, it definitely is, even down to the microphone and speaker at the bottom, 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, even covers up with the flap there for the USB-C port, power buttons, and all that. So if you're looking for a design change, you're not going to find one here, but the difference in performance is going to be significant, with about a 30 to 35% boost and processing power and graphics processing power. Now, even though the camera module on the back of these phones look identical, the new Poco X3 Pro has an upgraded main camera with a 48 megapixel sensor, which should produce significantly better photos than what we got on last year's device. And also the 8 megapixel ultra wide camera on the back of this phone, even though it's a downgrade in terms of resolution compared to the 13 megapixel sensor we got on the X3 NFC. It's going to be taking better pictures, specifically with better low light production, with a dedicated nighttime mode being able to be used on that one. There's also a 2 megapixel macro camera and 2 megapixel depth sensor as well. And then up front, we have a 20 megapixel selfie camera. So now that the unboxing is out of the way, let's go out and take some photos and videos with the Poco X3 Pro to see if the cameras on the back of this phone are truly an upgrade over last year's model. While the main camera on the back of the phone can record video at 4K 30 FPS, the ultra-wide camera is limited to 1080p at 30 frames per second. So you actually can't switch between the two cameras on the fly while recording video if you have 4K set on the main camera. So I do have to say this, I've only been shooting photos with this device for about an hour now, but the cameras on the back of the Poco X3 Pro are significantly better than what we got on the Poco X3 NFC last year. If you want a camera upgrade but really love the design and other features of this device, the Poco X3 Pro is definitely a huge upgrade over last year's model. And here's a look at video being captured from the front-facing camera on the Poco X3 Pro, low light conditions of course. Now the one thing that I do not know is whether or not the sensor on the front-facing selfie camera is the same sensor that's used on the X3 NFC. It seems to perform a lot better in low light conditions like this. It is the same resolution sensor, but it could be a slightly better sensor because performance here seems to be better, though they could have done some tweaking in the software in order to do that. After using this phone for a day now, for going out and taking photos and videos and just using it for everyday tasks, I do have to say I am pretty impressed with the improvements in overall performance with the new Snapdragon 860 chipset and the cameras on the back of the phone. It's definitely something that you should consider if you're actually looking at the Poco X3 NFC. One of the things that you do need to know is that in low light situations like these, you will need to rely on the dedicated night mode if you want to make sure that your photos actually turn out, because without that turned on, low light conditions are extremely tough for the main camera and the ultra wide to capture decent photos. And that's going to do it for this unboxing and first look at the cameras of the Poco X3 Pro. Let me know what you think of this device in the comments below and whether or not you think it's a good upgrade over the Poco X3 NFC. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for my full review and additional camera comparisons as well. I'll catch you in the next one.